Look like Caitlin Clark's civil rights has sparked a WNBA and NBA probe by the Trump administration.
The head of the WNBA is now under intense pressure as new information reveals the Caitlin Clark civil rights issue has become a complete federal inquiry. That's right, the government is involved. And the unbelievable thing is, this isn't simply about basketball now. It's about politics, influence, and the real power brokers behind the scenes of the league. Do you believe this probe is about getting justice for Caitlin Clark, or just political maneuvering? Share your thoughts below. Alright, brace yourselves, because this situation has more twists than a labyrinth. We have Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's leadership, and now we have the Trump administration.
Months ago that Trump and his administration was coming. I've been preaching on it. I didn't think it was going to hit the NBA first. I thought it was coming to the W first, simply because of Caitlin Clark, her civil rights being violated, and these damn referees.
Sources indicate a civil rights inquiry was initiated due to how Caitlin Clark was handled all season, from the officiating calls to the league's reaction to the fan pandemonium and the purported hostile atmosphere. And what's the result? The commissioner is taking the blame for it. Now, if you are a subscriber to this channel, you are aware we've been reporting on the Caitlin Clark saga since the beginning. At first, they dismissed the aggressive play. After that, they overlooked the fans who demanded her protection. Then they feigned ignorance, as clips of Clark being flagrantly fouled went viral each week. And so we find ourselves months later with the Department of Justice examining the situation, because it appears that when a league doesn't safeguard its primary star.
Now, Stephen A. Smith has been someone too that has been vocal, has been an advocate about this probe happening. Now, I am here to tell you.
I am here to inform you. Stephen A. Smith himself stated back in August that Trump's team was monitoring the WNBA with great interest. He wasn't speculating. He stated directly that a senator was already discussing this privately. Jump to the present and suddenly, it's all over television.
How many times, for one incident after another, have I said, Trump is coming? He's coming. I'm gonna say it on national television again.
So let's discuss the reason the commissioner is being criticized. It's quite clear. A failure of leadership. As Caitlin Clark was being physically battered on the court, what was the league's response? They were posting messages about female empowerment and acting as if all was well. The fans were not convinced. Even impartial commentators began to label the league as anti-Clark. She was the most significant attraction in WNBA history, yet also, somehow, its most frequently targeted player. The officials ignored obvious fouls, the other players criticized her in interviews, and the league did nothing.
I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark, the Department of Justice, and quite possibly the President of the United States himself. Somebody got to say it, so I'm going to say it. But the one thing I will not do is take credit for this. I am looking at the Wall Street Journal. The author of the article is a guy by the name of Sean McLean.
This is where the civil rights component becomes relevant, because according to federal statutes, if a league demonstrates prejudice or neglects to enforce its own regulations fairly, especially when matters of race and public opinion are factors, it can lead to problems, and it has now become one. The Trump administration's involvement complicates things further. They view Caitlin Clark as a national darling, a figure of diligence and achievement. Therefore, if they perceive she is being wronged, they will pursue the issue. Stephen A. gave everyone a heads up. If that political base embraces this narrative, the WNBA will live to regret it. Now every commentator from ESPN to Fox is adding to the criticism. Some describe it as a demand for accountability, others see it as political meddling. In any case, it is damaging for the commissioner, as you cannot effectively lead a league while appearing completely unaware. Let's be honest. This was not a difficult situation to avoid. All that was required was to ensure refereeing was uniform and that their own players were not making petty attacks on social media. But they didn't. They perceived Clark's fame as a danger rather than an asset, and now the federal authorities are investigating why league management disregarded complaints. That is never a favorable position to be in. So the news is out, and the WNBA commissioner is facing criticism from all sides. ESPN, Fox, The Blaze, and even political podcasts are all discussing it. Some are labeling it a day of reckoning, others simply see it as karma. Regardless, it is very bad. You have senators posing questions. Fans are openly criticizing her. One comment read, "How can you lead a league that permits its most valuable player to be harassed on national television?" Another stated, "If this had occurred with LeBron or Curry, people would have been fired by now." It's difficult to refute that point. Even retired players are weighing in. Some are defending the league, claiming it's just part of the competition. Others are openly stating what everyone is thinking: the officials treated her with a different standard. And when a sufficient number of insiders echo the same sentiment, it evolves into a significant issue, because at this point, the DOJ and the Trump administration are both showing interest. And when those two entities are mentioned in the same context as your league, you realize the situation is grave. Here is the reality no one is willing to acknowledge. This was entirely preventable. The WNBA could have resolved this discreetly months ago. A couple of suspensions, some accountability for referees. A definitive statement. You see, the league assumed Caitlin Clark's fame was a passing phenomenon, like a fleeting social media trend. They failed to grasp that she was the trend. They misjudged the extent of public support for her. Worse still, they viewed her success as a menace rather than a benefit. So this is our current situation. The commissioner's office is reportedly facing an internal review regarding its management of Clark's grievances about biased officiating. The Wall Street Journal's article on the hostile environment is now being cited as proof. Emails and internal communications are being subpoenaed, and as per an insider, there is widespread panic. Even Stephen A. Smith, who has been cautioning the league for months, stated this morning that this is only the beginning. He noted that the Trump administration has been observing the WNBA since Caitlin Clark turned into a subject of political debate. And yes, that is likely accurate, because we cannot deny that. Now let's consider the implications for the WNBA. The optics are terrible. A league that consistently advocates for fairness, empowerment, and equality is now being accused of acting in the complete opposite manner, of overlooking bias, allowing referees to show favoritism, and failing to protect the very player who increased their viewership by 400%. What has been the commissioner's response thus far? A brief 2-paragraph statement indicating they are open to all forms of oversight and are committed to transparency. In other words, they are extremely worried, because this is what is coming. Subpoenas, depositions, referees being interrogated about their calls, coaches being questioned about directives from the league. It will be a chaotic process, and when the facts emerge, if even a small part of the rumors are confirmed, it will shatter the progress. Now let's examine the civil rights aspect of this issue. Many people hear that term and dismiss it as mere legal terminology, but that is not the case here. If an athlete is treated unjustly due to prejudice, whether it's based on race, gender, or public pressure, it can be subject to a civil rights review. The government's function is not to determine the outcomes of games. It is to ensure that organizations enforce their regulations impartially. And when millions of viewers can plainly see that Clark was repeatedly fouled on plays where no penalty was called, that is sufficient cause for alarm. A league cannot extol its commitment to equality while simultaneously turning a blind eye to clear bias. It is a glaring example of hypocrisy, and the most amusing part, the very individuals who were claiming a few months ago that fans were overreacting are now rushing to state, "We are." And let's be truthful, this is only going to escalate. The Trump administration getting involved in a women's sports dispute? That will be a top story for weeks. Every news program, every podcast, every sports discussion will be centered on the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. And frankly, this might be the most attention the league has ever received. It's just a shame it's for all the wrong reasons. But let's take a moment for some sarcasm, because this is almost comical. The same WNBA that for months behaved as if they were indifferent to Clark's fame is now pleading with her to maintain a positive attitude as the league is being interrogated by federal investigators. So now she is your prized asset? Now she is respected? Give me a break. Where was that same concern when officials were ignoring their whistles every time she was fouled hard? Where was it when other players were making snide remarks about her media attention instead of just competing? Oh, suddenly the league wants to be her ally. It's too late. The harm has been done. And for the final touch, sponsors are paying close attention. Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, all the corporations that have invested millions in the WNBA's brand. They do not want a civil rights inquiry linked to their name. So yes, this is detrimental for everyone, with the exception of Caitlin Clark. And if Trump himself comments on the matter, which Stephen A. believes is highly probable, prepare for a storm, because that would transform this from a sports story into a political inferno almost instantly. It will be framed as Caitlin Clark against the establishment, and we all know who the public will support. Meanwhile, the players who ridiculed her or minimized her influence are now completely quiet. All of a sudden, everyone is championing unity and equitable treatment. The smell of PR desperation is palpable from a distance. And we must not forget, the NBA is also observing, because if this inquiry extends to the NBA's own gambling investigation, you will see a series of executive dismissals happen quicker than you can say federal intervention. As Stephen mentioned, this is no accident. It is a clear warning. The FBI does not convene press conferences for minor issues, and they did convene one. This implies that more developments are on the way. So yes, the commissioner can make any statement she wishes, but the public has already formed its judgment. She was unsuccessful. The fans are aware of it. The media is aware of it. And now it seems the federal government is also aware of it. And as this entire mess continues to develop, what about Caitlin Clark? She is poised to become wealthier, more renowned, and more influential than she has ever been. Because every report, every discussion, every political remark, it all revolves around her now. She is no longer just an athlete. She has become a symbol, and symbols, they do not fail. So yes, the WNBA commissioner is under scrutiny, the civil rights investigation is gaining momentum, and Caitlin Clark has just become the most dominant figure in women's sports. Whether this leads to meaningful change or a complete collapse, one thing is certain, the full story is about to be revealed. Leave your comments below, click the like button, and subscribe for more direct updates right here.